Throughout history, comics had always been a reflection to our society. From the X-Men representing minorities and social outcasts to Spider-Man being the embodiment of the American dream, comics have always mirrored the American society and ideals in varieties of different ways. What is the first thing you think of when you hear superheroes? For most, Superman is the first came to mind. Superman was created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster in 1938 around World War II and was themselves Jewish. Superman's parents sent him away from a planet that was going to explode to a new world. His spaceship crashed on a fictional town called Smallville in the state of Kansas, where he was adopted by a welcoming and happy couple, Jonathan and Martha Kent. Superman was a literally alien in America. The Kent couple can represent the US country by presenting a home to an alien which can represent immigrants to live a happy life. Superman has incredible powers. He uses power for truth, justice in the American way. Originally the phrase was just truth and justice, and the American way was added during the Cold War as a symbol of national pride. America identifies with Superman of that he uses his power for the good of the world. 1929 during the Great Depression, President Franklin D. Roosevelt purposed something called the New Deal. Its purpose was to solve the economic crisis, mainly employment problems and agriculture issues. These New Dealers saw themselves as the champion of the common man or champions of the oppressed, which in Action Comics #1 the narrator called Superman the champion of the oppressed. In the 1930s and 40s spent more time dealing with inequalities and social injustice. In Super Gods, One World in the Age of the Superhero by Grant Morrison states, at the beginning, Superman was a socialist superhero. He fought for the unemployed, the oppressed. It's about a man driven by a burning sense of injustice. He was conceived as a Depression-era superhero who dealt with the problem of ordinary people. A radio show premiered the 12th of February, 1940, titled The Adventure of Superman, getting 4 million listeners. The show originally depicts Superman battling monsters and Nazi. After World War II ended, less and less people attend to the show. At the time there was an organization called the KKK. This organization died down until, in 1905, a book was published titled The Klansman, which inspired a 1915 propaganda movie, sparking the revival of the KKK. An author, folklorist, and human rights activist, Stetson Kennedy went undercover in the KKK and acted as a spy. Kennedy contacted the show's creator Bob Maxwell about the organization, which produced episodes of Superman fighting the KKK. The show didn't single-handedly took down the KKK, but they contributed in the fight. Superman stands for truth, justice and the American way. In the book Superman vs. the Ku Klux Klan, Superman offered a little bit to everyone. Coming from a distant planet, he was the ultimate foreigner. Raised in the Midwestern heartland, he was the quintessential American. Growing up in a small town, he was rural at heart. Moving to a big city, he became more sophisticated and worldly. He was both weak and strong. His weak, mild alter ego, Clark Kent, was a sheepish bumbler, but he was always ready to transform himself into the all-powerful superhero. Another character that fights for the American way is of course the Star-Spangled Blue and Red all over himself, Captain America. Other than America is in his name and wears the American flag as a costume. He shows that even a scrawny kid can become a superhero and war hero. Even in the Civil War comics, Captain America fought for the rights to keep their secret identities because that would violate freedom. Let us move on from Superman. Another comic book superhero that has the word man at the end of their name is Spider-Man. While Superman stands for the American way, Spider-Man is the embodiment of the American dream. Peter Parker was just an ordinary kid before he got bitten by a radioactive spider. He then let a robber go because it wasn't his problem. This is where he makes his first mistake. The robber would then go to shoot his uncle, Ben. Ben was the one who adopted Peter with his wife May. Ben would tell Peter the famous quote, "With great powers comes great responsibility." Peter realized that he had the power to stop Ben's death but chose not to. Thus Spider-Man was born. Peter resembles America in many ways, a fairly young country that gained great power and is trying to figure out how to use said power. Spider-Man also falls in the American exceptionalism, where a city upon a hill taken from the New Testament. The eyes of all people are truly upon us. and our government must be a city upon a hill, constructed and inhabited by a man aware of that great trust in their great responsibility. JFK. Also the past few days where I've been that window upstairs, I thought a bit of a shining city upon a hill. Ronald Reagan. Spider-Man doesn't have to be Spider-Man, but he chose to because he has the power to do so. Just like America doesn't have to be a beacon of hope to guide the world, but we chose to because we have the power to do so. The thing is, the spider could have bitten any one of us, and we would have gotten the power. That same power Peter chose to use for good. Spider-Man makes a lot of mistakes. Insert mistakes. But what makes him relatable is that he always tries to do the right thing. So was young America. Andrew Jackson was infamous for creating the Indian Removal Act that forced Native Americans off their homes. But in his eyes he was trying to do the right thing. The bill was created because America was running out of land for people to live and farm. Spider-Man is just a kid. Insert Spider-Man homing needing help clip. And he is bearing all this weight all by himself. Not for any selfish reasons, but because he have the power to do so. As time went by, we starts to see some representations of different ethnicities. Starting with Black Panther. He was the first black superhero. He was created 1966 by Stan Lee, Jack Kirby. Fun fact, the Black Panther Party was also founded in 1966. But they do not have any correlations with each other. Both of their names were taken from another Black Panther party that encouraged that a black political figure would be elected. Marvel then changed Black Panther's name to Black Leopard because they didn't want any affiliations with the organization. Another Marvel property that's involved with race, inequalities and all that jazz are the X-Men. X-Men first debut on the X-Men #1 September 1963. They were often compared to inequality because they were often portrayed as victims of mob violence because of them being born as a mutant. The mutation in their genes would makes them outcasts of society and people hates others that are different. Show examples of X-Men getting oppressed. Professor X was often compared to Martin Luther King as he dreams of a better world where mutants are treated as equals. This dream was the so-called Xavier's dream, the comic book version of MLK's I Have a Dream. Magneto was compared to Malcolm X because he fights for the same reasons as Xavier but goes about it in a different way, mostly the violent way. Also the X-Men began to include members that are gay. These characters are Anole, Bling, Destiny, Karma, Mystique, Psylocke, Courier, North Star and later on Iceman. Bonus characters are Nick Fury who was originally white. But in 2002 a new universe called the Ultimate Universe where it depicted a black Nick Fury and later 2011 Miles Morales Spider-Man makes his first debut as the first black Spider-Man. After that universe Spider-Man passed away. Marvel got a lot of flack, saying that it was just for the sake of equality but later would become most people's favorite versions of Spider-Man. Also an Asian Spider-Man in the form of Silk. Watchmen creates a gray area on the black and white sense of justice where a superhero, Ozymandias, willingly killed millions of innocent people to save billions others. This goes in contrast with our other character, Rorschach, who sees the world in a black and white filter. Rorschach believes that only the guilty deserve to die. Watchmen portrays superheroes as flawed individuals instead of the heroic portrays of other comics. It asks the question of which is it rightly moral to sacrifice countless innocent lives to save a greater number of innocent lives? Superman stands for truth, justice and the American way. In a way Superman is the embodiment of the American identity while Spider-Man is the embodiment of the American dream. X-Men represent inequalities and social outcasts and Watchmen questions if doing the wrong thing is really the right thing. I think that is what's so appealing about these superheroes. Because we can see ourselves in them.